my goodness. Okay, everybody, since we're both here, I'm going to introduce our co-host, Dr. Dustin Glass. He is the father of one of our absolutely adorable brand ambassadors, Shayna Glass. It's been so much fun getting to know her. She's such a beautiful, wonderful young woman.
Thank you.
You did good, Dad. All right, you guys, Dr. Dustin Glass is an absolutely brilliant chiropractor. He has been practicing for 20 plus years. He has worked with the LA Lakers, the Dodgers, the Anaheim Ducks, Team USA, Volleyball, just extremely decorated chiropractor. We're so honored that you're here with us today. We are going to be discussing a very important topic of 5 myths about athletic recovery. I just think, I don't think athletes do this enough. I think it's a very looked over thing. And I think if more athletes did focus more on recovery just as much as they did the actual work itself, I mean, I'm serious. There could be so many more less injuries. People could be playing a lot longer, and we should just see, we could absolutely see so much enhancement of our bodies and our minds and our athleticism. And I'm just super excited that you're here to talk about this. I think all athletes, coaches, and parents of athletes need to be on here, need to pay attention. And guys, we encourage you guys to ask questions. Please, that is what we're here for. That is what our passion is for tonight in this discussion. And Dr. Glass, I know, is going to provide some absolutely brilliant insight for you guys on this topic. So also tonight, you guys, whoever is joined in and is participating, we will announce a very lucky winner of a $50 Amazon gift card. Woohoo! I wish I could get that. So, all right. So to get started, Dr. Glass, would you like to kind of get us rolling on some of the very important athletic recovery myths, the 5 myths that we all need to know about and need to address?
Yeah, no, and I'd kind of like to do this more like a conversation versus a lecture. I think a conversation would be a little more well received by our audience, and that way we can keep the flow going. I don't want to sit up here lecturing. My lecture days are, anyways, I want to just kind of start off by thanking you for having me, for one. And I do think this is a really important topic, like you said, and this platform is an unbelievable platform, and I think it's just at the infancy what you guys are doing, and I can't wait to see how it grows and be part of it. But for what you guys are doing and getting out in front of the youth and all the way up through the pro level and coaches and parents and everything, I mean, we got to get a foundation started, and you guys are doing that. So I really appreciate the platform. I feel fortunate through my daughter to be, somewhat associated with you guys, just through earshot, a distance. But anyways, not so much myths. I think more misconceptions of a lot of things that I'd like to talk about. And there's several good ones. I think at the event we were talking about a few things that we all see from a day-to-day basis, coaching on the field, off the field. But I really do believe it starts with the foundation of teaching our youth the importance about recovery. The performance side comes if our recovery side is there. And unfortunately, what I'm seeing, especially in practice, having an opportunity to work with youth all the way up through the pro and elite level, is that it's kind of flip-flopped, in my opinion. People don't start taking recovery serious until they get to the higher levels. And it's unfortunate. We teach our youth the foundation of their sport from day one, all the fundamentals, but we're missing that big part about how to take care of their body during all these growing pain type things of learning the game. And I think that's why I'm really excited about having an opportunity through you guys to reach as many people as we can. And maybe if we can instill upon one person, one coach, one parent, one kid, the importance of taking care of their body now, I think it'd be worth our time. But yeah, that's what I see. I mean, the pros, the elite athletes, they're all taking care of their bodies because one, they're getting paid to do so, but they understand the importance. If they're not taking care of their bodies, they can't perform at the highest level. So why don't we start having that mentality early on? And just to throw out one little nugget, in the sports rehab and performance world, the ratio really is a 2-to-1 ratio. And if everybody could just kind of get that in their mind, and what I mean by that is for every hour of activity we're spending, we should have at least a half hour's worth of recovery instilled in that day. So now a lot of people will sit there and say, no way, I can't get a half hour. If I have 2-hour practice, that means I'm spending an hour of recovery. I can't even spend 10 minutes of recovery. So what I've learned over the time, it really doesn't have to be an hour sit down of recovery. What we're talking about is at the end of the day, if you can break those moments up in 5-minute spurts, 30-second spurts, as long as at the end of the day, you've equated to an hour's worth of recovery. If you had 2 hours of activity, then you're going to be ahead of the game. So that means 5 minutes of foam rolling, 5 minutes of stretching, 10-minute meditation period, 30-minute soaking in a hot tub with Epsom salt. So all these little things that you can do throughout the day within a 24-hour period off the field can be accumulated. And if you can, at the end of the day, say, okay, I've accumulated half of my time to that, then you should be able to recover for the next day and be fresh and ready. So that'd be one of my number one tips that I would say that people can practice. I always say control what we can control and don't worry about the rest. Well, coaches are scheduling practice times and, we're showing up day in, day out, because they tell us to and we have to and we want to. But nobody else, the remaining time, we have control over that time, and how we spend it is equally as important. So if you take home one nugget today, that'd be my probably biggest one. I'd say learn to start figuring out what that ratio means to you and how you can start chipping away at those little moments. 30-second stretch, well, that goes towards your hour of recovery. 30-second stretch here, 60-second here, and just start even mentally journal or in your phone journal or on a piece of paper journal. And at the end of the day, if you can say, okay, I spent this much time activity and half that time in my recovery, I'm good for the next day. You'll be ahead of the game on that. So
awesome. So I remember back whenever I was in college, we would get up for 6:30 weights, and quite literally, I did not have time to do all the stretches because I had to pretty much walk a half a mile to class.
Right.
And be in class. So you're saying if I don't get my stretches done right then after workouts, I could get them done at another certain time whenever I do have time to sit down and actually do recovery. It doesn't have to be like right then, right there. As long as we get it done sometime throughout the day, then we are.
Yeah, that's one thing I've learned. There's so many rules we have to follow, right? So and I think if we start changing our thought process in that it doesn't have to be black or white, right? We don't have to do this kind of stretching at this time and this is the best. Yes, the research shows there's ideal times for everything, but in the real world situation, that goes out the door, right? We're not in the lab setting. We're in real life setting, like you said, 6:30 there, then we're study hall, then we're classes, then we're, and then they do put in a little recovery time, at that level, but that's not enough. So you have to learn these habits early on. So yes, that's why I tell my patients all the time, you have 24 hours in the day to get these done. I don't care how you get them done, just chip away at them. If I give you 5 stretches and each one takes 15 to 60 seconds, let's just say 30 seconds each. And you don't have to do them. You don't have to, if we were doing your neck, you don't have to do this and then automatically do this. If you have 30 seconds while waiting for something, do this. And then 2 hours later, do the other side. And then later on, do your hamstring stretch. And then later on, do this. Nobody cares or wants to know what you're doing in the bathroom. So spend an extra 15, 30 seconds until you come out of the door doing a stretch, right? So that way we take out all the excuses that people have. I don't have time. You have just as much time as anybody else, so.
Yes, absolutely.
You got to prioritize it.
100%. And can we go ahead and talk about like ice baths, ice bags, and the difference in ice and heat, and how ice affects your body, how heat affects your body, and when's the right time to do ice or do heat or do contrast, and what is the best way for an athlete who is, quite literally breaking down her body every single day.
Yeah.
What would be the best regimen for her to do that?
Yeah, that's a great topic, and that's one that I mean, you get 10 people in a room in my world, and you'll get 20 different opinions on this because it's such a controversial thing, and I understand all aspects. I break down every little thing. When somebody has an opinion on something, I want to learn as much about their opinion as I can so I can dissect it and take what I believe is the best out of each opinion. So I understand the arguments of ice versus heat and when to do what. Again, I try to keep it simple for everybody. And I look at how our anatomy and physiology is working. I know what the rules say, within a certain amount of time, 24 to 72 hours, you should be doing this. Afterwards, you should be doing this. Well, after 3 days of having pain and my joint is still inflamed and swollen. So you're telling me I'm not inflamed at that point and I shouldn't ice at that point just because the research shows now it's a heating thing? I don't believe in that, So my whole thing, inflammation leads to instability and loss of function. Okay, that's really important. We'll come full circle on that again. So as an athlete, we really want to work on everything we're doing is keeping inflammation low. Okay, so because of that purpose, because performance, we want to be able to be as stable as possible so we can perform. So if there's an inflammatory process going on anywhere, we want to try to get that down. Now, as far as ice goes, let's go with heat first. Heat, we want blood flow. Not all inflammation is bad. Inflammation comes in for a purpose to start the healing process, to break down tissue, to clean out tissue, to repair tissue. The inflammatory process is there for a purpose. So that's why a lot of people say, oh, don't take Advil, don't ice it down. We want it inflamed so it can start healing. Yes, but we don't want it in excess. That's the problem. So we don't want it in excess. So instead, a lot of times, so with the heating thing, if we're not breaking down and we're not having a strain of some sort and we're just tight and sore just from the day's workout, but there's no strain going on, just tight muscles, sore muscles, then yeah, let's get some heat in there. Let's heat the area down. Let's get some circulation. Like before games, we want to get things warmed up, right? Before performing, we want to warm things up and get the blood flow going so it can loosen up our muscles and joints. So applying some heat or some topical creams that can heat the area up, that'd be a good thing. But not if we're dealing with some pain associated with it. Part of the inflammatory response is pain because the brain's trying to tell you something's wrong. So if there's some pain in that area, then we typically don't want to heat it up. Now, soreness is different, right? A tight, achy muscle, that we all know the difference between a pain and a sore, achy area. So if it's sore and achy and we just need to loosen things up, then I say let's go for some heat. But if there's a possibility of some pain and some strain area, then what I want to do is, if it's not an acute injury with a lot of gross swelling, that's a visible thing, but there's some pain in a joint, I want to cool the area down. Okay, so we're not using, it always sounds weird, we don't want to have cold ice. We want to cool it down. So that means lots of layers of towel, put the ice over the towel and just cool the area down. What we want to do, just here's a quick little anatomy and physiology little demonstration. If this is a blood vessel, okay, and there's stretch fibers around the blood vessel. When the blood vessel swells due to an injury or an overstrain or just increased blood flow to the area, the blood vessel swells and those stretch fibers get triggered. Those stretch fibers send a signal up to your brain to tell the brain that there's something going on more than normal down there. The brain then sends a signal back down to the area as pain to get your attention to that area, okay? So if we know that the pain was triggered on by this increased blood flow more than the norm and triggered these stretch fibers, then if we want to minimize that, then we want to bring those blood vessels back to normal so to take the tension off the stretch fibers. So what I want to do is cool the area down just to bring the blood vessels that expanded back to normal, not constricted, okay?
Right.
Because again, we want blood flow and oxygen to heal the area. So as we expand, we bring them back to normal, and we do that through cooling an area down, not icing. Icing is going to constrict the area, unless, like I said, it's a gross injury, loss of swelling, and an obvious tear or something. Then we got to get the inflammation down fast. But
Right.
so a cooling thing is almost like a fever towel, where we put a towel and we just want to cool the area down if we had a fever. That's how cool I'm talking about it. Just cool that joint down. So it's more soothing, relaxing. The brain gets a signal of, hey, I'm here to help, not a noxious stimulus where it triggers a negative response. So, that's my take. If in doubt, we ice things down or cool them down.
Right.
You can't go wrong with cooling an area down. You can go wrong with heating an area. Say you had a strain and you didn't know it was a strain. You just thought it was a tight, achy muscle, but there was actually more tearing going on in there than that you realize, because there's no bruising or real obvious swelling, but it's a strain. Then if you heat the area, heat is always going to feel good. It always will sedate us. It always feels good. But what happens 45 minutes to an hour later, when the blood vessels swell, if there's an injury in there, they stay expanded, and then we've triggered that stretch fiber again. So like an hour later, after the sedation wears off, we have more pain. So then that's not a good thing, right? So I can't tell you how many people, heat things and they're no better after like a week. It still hurts. It's because even though the heat's the best thing that feels good to them, they're keeping the fire stoked, kind of say, so to speak. So if that's the case, after a few days, if it's not working, then I say, hey, just reverse it, ice it down. So if you're not sure and you heat and you realize you made a mistake, just ice it down, get the blood vessels back to normal, and start the process again. But
I absolutely love that explanation so much. Whenever I coach anybody, I always don't tell them like what to do just to do it, just why. I love that you gave us the why, and that these kids or whoever is listening can really dissect this mentally and get their mind body connected to this type of recovery, and become aware of their body. What is an ache and pain versus some soreness, that's going to be on their mind. So I love that. I love that you made that so clear. Thank you so much.
Real quick before I forget, this is a big point with icing. Never ice more than 15 minutes. Okay, that's one thing. I have people come in and they say, "Oh, I've been icing, and how long?" I don't know. I fell asleep with it on for an hour at a time. Here's the thing: the way the physiology works, because in our mind we think more is better, but the way the icing works is there's an actual physiological reaction that happens, and that after 15 minutes, there's no more benefit to ice. So ice has its benefit physiologically for about 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes, it plateaus. And then at 20 minutes, it actually starts bringing in more blood flow and starts bringing in blood flow to prevent like frostbite. So between 15 and 20, no more benefit. So I just tell my patients, that way we don't get into that vulnerable area, just stop at 15, because you're not going to get any more benefit. So stop at that 15, because if you accidentally go past 20, you're just starting to reverse what you already tried to accomplish with the icing. And so it's a really important, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's going to happen. It's a physiological reaction that our body has to protect us. So be ice smarter, not longer.
I like that. Ice smarter, not longer.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Can we go ahead and move on to different kinds of stretching? I know everybody has always been told to stretch. Well, how do I stretch? What is the best way? Like after I do, get that blood flowing the way it should and get the inflammation and at a level it should be, like what kind of stretching is the most appropriate, like before, after, during an athletic event?
Yeah, super important. Because we all know it's important, but we just don't always know and again, these are my opinions, observations, and what I've seen work and what I've learned from working with pros and all that. I'm lucky enough to where I get to go into these facilities and learn from the best of the best and be around the best strength coaches, the best, ATCs, the best physical therapists. And we just, as a part of that sports medicine team, getting to sit there and we just have these conversations, we kind of just, feed off each other. So a lot of what I'm telling you is not necessarily mainstream and what Dr. Google will say, but it's based on experience and real life stuff. So getting to your question, the real important one topic I want everybody here. Here's point two. If here's the other point. First point was you have your ratio down, 2-to-1 ratio, activity to relaxation or recovery. The next point that I would like people to hear and take away is that a tight muscle is a weak muscle. Okay, so that's really important. So if your muscles are overtaxed and tight, they have nothing left to give. Okay, so a lot of times when we come in and somebody comes in for recovery, they'll say, "Oh, I have tight glutes. I need or my glutes are weak." That's what they'll say. My glutes are weak, and I need to strengthen my glutes. But then when we start looking at them, the glutes are rock solid, and it's not that they're weak. They're just overworked and taxed. So our first line of defense will be to lengthen things. The first thing I do with my athletes and my patients is start working on lengthening versus stretching. We have to understand the difference. A stretch, I'm just going to give an example just real quick. If I tilt my head and pull, that's a stretch. If I just tilt my head and stop where it stops, that's lengthening. So that's a length. This is a stretch. Okay. So where your body will naturally stop, that's a lengthening process. The muscle fibers kind of go like this, back and forth. They run in parallel fashion. What happens, and there's a point A to point B. What happens is, and that's natural, and they have a natural length and endurance built into them. But when they get tired and fatigued, they start crossing or crisscrossing or folding on themselves. And then that length, A to B, shortens. And when that muscle shortens, that's when we start feeling tight. So what we want to do, what people do then is go stretch, and they take it from point A to C, and they overstretch the area. And then the brain says, hey, that's dangerous, and it recoils back to this tighter area. So we can stretch, feel good for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and then it comes right back. So you hear that all the time, no matter how much I stretch, I never get any more flexible. That's because they're stretching past the point of physiological end range, and then it's recoiling back to protect them. So if we just take it the way the body wants to work and just take it back to the lengthened period and just bring it back to here. So if I'm like this and I just open it up and lengthen it, then it will start holding, because this is what the brain wants it to do. Yeah. And then once I get my length and I can feel pretty good, no restrictions, then I can start working on stretching it. But we don't earn the right to stretch until we've gotten the muscles lengthened. And just by lengthening the tissue, guess what? The strength starts to come back. So a lot of times your weaknesses just build just from lengthening the tissue. And we do that through static stretching. So you ask the difference between like statics or dynamics. So lengthening the tissue is all through static moves. So that's just a hold. That's just me dropping here, letting it lengthen, looking down, letting it lengthen. Okay, those are statics. We hold for about 15 to 60 seconds. Ideally, research shows about 30 seconds. So it really doesn't take much time. If you do it for 15 seconds multiple times throughout the day, you will start getting this lengthening process. So, there's no excuse. Everybody has 15 seconds. It's just figuring out where to put it in. As far as, so those static type hanging out stretches are best done after workouts. Okay. So a lot of the teams we work out, you'll see them get right off the court, right off the field, and they'll sit down on the ground and start doing their statics, allowing the length to return after they just used it. So statics are really important post-workout. Before a workout, if they found, research showed if you start doing statics before a competition, you actually lose about 30% of your power. So that's really scary. Like when I was coaching, it was a fun thing we would always do. You're on opposite ends of the field, and we'd always watch my team would always watch the other team warm up. I'm talking about 8 to 12, 14U, right? So we had a lot of time to watch and talk little trash on the other team in a fun, spirited way, right? But so we would say, let's win the warm-ups, right? So if we would look over at the other field and saw them all in a circle doing hamstring stretch or anything, we instantly knew we won, because we knew they would have 30% less power. And that's what I would teach my little kids that, hey, listen, we just won warm-ups right there, because we're not doing statics, we're doing dynamics. So we did dynamics. So the idea with dynamic stretching is stretching with motion, right? So you've all seen teams do arm circles, walking the line, doing high knees, butt kickers, shuffles, back steps, drop steps, all that kind of dynamic move. And the key with dynamics is you want to get your heart rate up enough to get a light sweat going. that means the muscles are warm enough, okay? Because then it's working from inside out. So dynamics are to be done before, statics are typically to be done afterwards.
Interesting. Good to know. Fantastic to know. You really just, man, you rocked my world about the whole lengthen versus stretch thing.
It's a
Never
game changer.
Yeah, total game. I was sitting here thinking in my mind, like, what if I would have known that back when I was an athlete?
Yeah.
How much more performance I could have gotten out of my body like that. That was really, truly amazing. Definitely some things I'm going to be sharing with my own athletes that I train now. Because I definitely know that just being an athlete myself and being a coach, watching these athletes, they don't do this. You know,
No.
they don't get this involved, you know, with the stretching and with all the prehab stuff like that. And man, if they only knew. I'm sitting here thinking, like, can I go back in time?
Yeah,
Can I
right.
go back in time and like reconstruct my body, please?
Yeah, keep it simple.
Was,
like take each position and work on, like, give them 3 to 5 moves to statically do and 3 to 5 to dynamically do. Because everybody, so if we give them, 4 moves, right? That's 15 seconds each, right? That's a minute out of their day. Okay, so it's like, and then on each side, so 2 minutes, right? But they have 2 minutes out of the 24 hours of the day. So you keep it super simple and give them no excuses, but start on those position specific, and we can always talk about that sometime.
There's something I really would like to discuss with you too. Something that I actually did as an athlete, and I still kind of do make my my athletes do it. Is flush runs.
Mm-hmm.
Flush runs, like, is a part of a recovery. And I forgot what the article was, but I was just scrolling around looking at. I saw an article that said somebody thinks or says that flush runs could actually be better than like an ice bath for your recovery. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So again, different camps, right? People have different thoughts. One thing with running, if you do not like to run, it could be the worst thing for you. And I'm not even talking about physically, like, because a lot of athletes will do things they don't like. And I can tell you just because they've been told to do it. But if running's a big one. So I'll just stick with the running. Running is a big one. We all have to do it for conditioning and stuff. But if it's perceived as a negative to your brain and you're just hating it the whole time, you're going to release a lot of cortisol. That's the stress hormone, and it will actually be counterproductive for you. So if we are doing flush runs, when I'm working with people, I want to make sure that they understand why we're doing it and make it not, they don't have to enjoy it, but if they understand the why behind it, it doesn't have to be a negative. Right. So, but yeah, increasing again. So after the activity, you typically go into a competition loose and ready to go, and then you've taxed your body so things shorten down again. Getting back and getting on that little flush run gets that oxygen intake up, vasodilates those blood vessels, bringing in tons of oxygen, flushing out the lactic acid, and it's a really good recovery.
So this is what I really want to talk about is nutrition and hydration,
Mm-hmm.
and how crucial and essential that is for your body's performance. Growing up, growing up at the ball field is tough. It's tough. Yeah. And whenever you are at the ball field all day and you don't really have a whole lot of options for nutrition and hydration, and, things get expensive at concession stands, like, I mean, what are some nutritional, I guess, tips that maybe they could prepare, like an athlete can prepare for throughout their day to keep their body functioning properly?
Yeah, this is a huge one that if you knew me as a coach and knew everybody in my dugout knows how important, and I harp on this because it is, you're fueling your body, right? And if we're going to be putting in all this time, energy, money, travel, everything, and we're putting in the hours to practice, the parents are helping get us there, and then we finally get to tournament time, and then we're feeding us junk, and we start crashing, and it goes back to that inflammation thing, right? So you want to keep the inflammation out of your diet, because again, if you're playing in a tournament or you're playing, normally you play maybe a doubleheader or a 3-game friendly, and now you're playing a 6-game, if you're making the championship, you're on game 6, right, of a weekend, and you're going to need fuel. but your body's also going to be taxed. So if you're feeding your body fuel that's going to be detrimental to you and inflaming your joints when you need them the most, then that's not good, right? You've wasted, it's a waste. So I'm a big proponent of this. Keep the sugars out of our diet. Okay. So obviously I can't tell you how many times game 6 at 6:30 at night, a mom would come in with a bag of Skittles and tell the kids, oh, just eat the Skittles. You need energy. You need energy. And it would drive me. Our pitcher would be on the mound picking Skittles out of their teeth. And my coaches would look at me and I'm like, it's driving me crazy. I mean, but you know, I didn't want to fight it at that point, but it's not good. There's other sources of sugar. So basically what we stick to is I keep it super simple for the athletes. And I know it's a personal thing for every family. People are going to do what they're going to do. But if we're talking about and we're getting specific on things, keep it simple. So what I tell them, I said, look at your hand, okay? Before you put it in your mouth, if it fits in your hand. If it's not a fruit and vegetable, lean protein, mixed nut, don't put it in your mouth, okay? That's kind of our basic rules, because people are saying, well, what about this? Is it a protein? Is it a fruit or vegetable or a mixed nut? Nope. Okay, well then you probably shouldn't. So, you know, if we're talking about inflammation and for performance, right? You can get everything you need nutritionally out of your fruits and vegetables, lean protein, mixed nuts. You can get your fats, you can get your carbohydrates, you can get everything out of that you need to perform without the excess inflammation. So, and it keeps it super simple. Now, easier said than done when there's a snack bar with nachos, hot dogs, you know, everything, and the kids want the slushies, and you know, and I get it, you know, but if parents, we can have our cooler packed with those kind of things, at least we're giving our kids a fighting chance, right? Yes. They're still going to go for the nachos. They're still going to grab for the big old pretzel. They're still going to go for all that. But if you can spread it in between so it's not overloaded with that stuff, and remind them, hey, you know, have some watermelon, have some fruit, you know, in between. So that's getting kind of picky. I realize that, and I know not everybody's going to be on board with that. That's just, but if we want to take it to the next level, that's what we do. We keep it simple. For my kids, we would do, you know, we would have like turkey and cheese and apples. We would have grapes. We would have almonds. We would have, you know, things like that. A lot of it. It was part of their lifestyle, so they knew that's what we had. But if they were eating that way 80-90% during the week, and they wanted to go to pizza after our game, they were eating pizza. They were doing whatever they wanted to do, you know. If they wanted something, it's not that big a deal. But if they're eating a certain way all the time, and then at the games also eating that way, it's not helping. So again, control what we can control, and don't worry about the rest. I'm not so like tight knit on that. But again, if people are wanting to know, it's for the inflammation, you know, and to perform at your best. The other thing too, so for like catchers or the corners, you know, if a ball comes and hits you in the head, or you get, you know, you get bonked as a batter, if your brain's a little inflamed, your incidence and the recovery from that concussion is going to take a little longer than if your brain wasn't inflamed. So that's another thing, just from a recovery standpoint. You want to have your brain as healthy going into competition as possible, because things happen. So as far as water and hydration goes, water's a natural muscle relaxer and nerve conductor. So a lot of my kids, they don't, you know, they're not going to drink water, right? Adults don't drink water enough, right? So we're always talking to them about, hey, you stay hydrated, stay hydrated. Well, that goes right over their head. They've heard that so much, it means nothing to them.
Means nothing. Yeah.
But yeah,
so they're numb
nothing.
to it.
I'm not thirsty. I'm not thirsty. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
So don't talk about thirst, or don't talk about hydration anymore. Talk about performance. Okay. They lose all rights to complain. This is my kids, and I'm not being mean about this, but I tell my kids, you lose all rights to complain about your tight muscles, your sore aches, if you're not doing the things you need. So if we know that water is a natural muscle relaxer and nerve conductor, but you're coming to me and telling me you're tight, you're sore, and you don't have the energy, but you haven't had, I pull up your water jug and it's still half full after 4 games. Okay, I'm sorry you feel that way, but you need to learn, you got to take care of it. So again, water and if you start talking like for pitchers or anybody, at a performance level, pitchers, I speak of pitchers because they need power and they need endurance, right?
Right.
Hitters need power, but the pitchers need the endurance, right? So if we talk about outcomes, power and performance and endurance to a pitcher, and that this water is going to be their natural, way to keep their muscles loose and for them to last 3 more innings, then they're going to drink the water whether they're thirsty or not. It's not about thirst at that point. It's about feeding those,
Right. It's like all this stuff might be an irritant to your convenience, but it's like, how important is your body?
Yeah.
And we have to treat it well. We have to treat it well. So thank you so much for that insight. I guess let's get to your passion really quick, chiropractic, and how important. I the first time I met you, I told you, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're God's doctor.
Yeah,
You figure out a way to get people's bodies to heal themselves and to work themselves by adjusting and aligning the nervous system, and how important that is, not just for, athletic purposes, but so many other purposes. Like I take my child to chiropractic for attention issues. My daughter's been going to a chiropractor since she was 7 weeks old, and she's never been on antibiotics.
Yeah.
Knock on
Yeah.
knock on wood. I
Yeah.
mean, just and how crucial that would be for an athlete, because of all the pounding that we put our bodies through with weightlifting, with running, and with our sports, and how important the nervous system is to the muscle system, to the circulatory system, to the immune system, and how that gets our bodies just fired up.
Yeah, no, it's important, and I'm not naive. I understand, there's tons of misconceptions out there about chiropractic, and I feel bad for that. My profession did a terrible job at educating people. There's no education out there. Dentistry did an amazing job at educating people, right? I always use those two analogies because, as soon as a baby's born, us as parents are rubbing their gums, taking care of their gums with our finger. And then as soon as they have some teeth, we're starting to brush their teeth. Tooth and gum care is a no-brainer for everybody, but nobody thinks about taking care of their muscles and their bones. And we had muscles and bones before we had teeth, right? So It's one of those things. It's like, why didn't we learn this? We didn't get a owner's manual that explained how to take care of what we were born with, and so that's kind of where my passion is, and I just wish more people understood how chiropractic actually works. There's a lot of negative out there, and I get that. And then you watch social media and see these chiropractors, adjusting and making the noises and using contraptions, and I get it. It's fun to watch and hear and listen, but it doesn't really do our profession much justice when it comes to talking about performance and overall health and wellness. Where I went to school, Palmer, we are educated above, down, inside out, meaning that, we were born with everything we need to start healing ourselves, right? And what happens is life gets in the way. We get stressors that are put on us, whether environmental, mental, chemical stressors that change our physiology and affect our physiology, putting in interferences to that ability to heal itself. So that's where we start getting sick sometimes or having issues. So basically, we have our brain, then we have the spinal cord, and what the spinal cord, we have all the bones surrounding it to protect the spinal cord, and then the ribs to protect the organs, right? So everything has a purpose, and we're totally symmetrical. I mean, if you look at it and how weird it is, but you got your shoulders, and down below your waist, you got your hips that are equal to your shoulders. You got your elbows. Then you have your knees, right, that are the same as you, and then you have your wrists, which are the same as your ankles. So everything's like totally symmetrical, right? And they all, stability, mobility, stability. That's how it all works. Your ankles are stable. Your knees are, are mobile, stable, mobile. So it all starts with the stability and mobility kind of platform. But anyways, I said that wrong. Your ankles are supposed to be very mobile, not stable. But anyways, off topic. So if our bones are protecting our spinal cord and we get a little interference with there, it's basically like a hose, having a kink in it. So it can't get the energy or the nerve flow to the organs or the muscles or the tissues. So we start having, so the system starts going down a little. So instead of 100% nerve supply, if we're working on 80%, we can still get by and do pretty well. But what if we could have 100% nerve supply as an athlete, talking about from performance, or for anybody, but from a performance standpoint, if we feel, man, we're doing really good. Well, what if you could do better? And that's where chiropractic can help, removing some interferences from different areas of your body to allow your nerves to function at their highest potential. So that's really where my passion is educating people on how to maximize their full potential, because we just don't know. And if I have a little bit of knowledge on that and I can share that with people, and they can just live a little better life and do what they love a little better, then I feel like I've done my job. And that's really where I want to go with it. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you totally. I love talk about this. I can feel your love and passion for all of this, and it just shows. It shows in your face. It shows. I can hear it in your voice, and I think you really gave a lot of insight to a lot of people tonight. Thank you so very much, and I really hope that everybody, what you guys got out of this is, your body is a gift. It's a gift, and it is absolutely miraculous. It is wonderful. It is a beautiful thing that you can steward, and that it should be an honor. It should be an honor to take care of it, not a burden. And I that's what I hope everybody got out of this today. Dr. Glass, you're brilliant. Thank you so much. I wish we could stay for another hour talking.
Yeah, me too. Let's do this again anytime.
100%. I'd love to do this again with you, for sure. For sure. So
thanks for having me. I really appreciate
absolutely
everything you guys are doing.
Yes, we're absolutely just thrilled with this revolutionary platform that we can, really honestly, truly change people's lives through Major Media League. And yeah, I'm super excited to be a part of this. You guys, I'm Megan Denny White. We're signing off here. I'm head coach for Major Media League, and I would love to have you on again, Dr. Glass.
Anytime.
And,
you have my number.
Keep all of these wonderful topics coming, all things softball, all things athletics. And yeah, let's do our part to make someone's life better.
Sounds good. Let's do this.
Awesome. All right. All right. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You too. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.